on 3 separate occasions with 3 different ships, we had underwater infrastructure being destroyed, damaged in the Baltic Sea. That's what we're going to talk about today. My name is Max Villman. I'm a former fighter pilot for the Swedish Air Force, and let's go. So in November of 2024, December of 2024, and January of 2025, we'd have 3 separate occasions where underwater infrastructure, either electrical cables, internet cables, and so on, being destroyed by merchant ships dragging their anchors across the seafloor of the Baltic Sea. And these are cables between either Finland, Estonia, Sweden and Latvia, or Sweden, Germany, Lithuania. And what has been done about this? First of all, let's look at the map. We have the Baltic Sea here. We have Sweden here in the middle, Finland to the east, the Baltic states, Poland, Germany, and so forth. And if we look at the map regarding the different cables, we can still see Sweden here. We have Finland, we have the Baltic Sea, we have the Baltic states, Poland, Kaliningrad, and Germany over here. On 3 different occasions, we had cables destroyed here, we had cables destroyed here, and damaged, here. And all these 3 incidents are regarding this so-called shadow fleet. So these are ships not flagged in Russia per se, but being believed to be controlled by Russian interests, either through oligarchs owning ships, because normally these types of ships are registered in Malta or some other state like Liberia or something like that, but actually that they are controlled and ordered by Moscow or even by Beijing. And the first incident was in 17th of November with the ship Yipeng 3, which was actually Chinese flagged. It cut 2 and damaged 2 different communications cables, so internet cables, fiber cables that ran between Sweden and Lithuania and Finland and Germany respectively. So this ship was then stopped in Öresund, which is the area between Sweden and Denmark. If you take a look at the map, it was stopped after passing through Öresund and being held here by Swedish and Danish authorities. After investigation, the ship was let go because nothing could be proved. I don't know how that came to pass, but it was let go after about a month of inspections. But it had definitely been part of the destruction of this cable, even though it was let loose. And then in December, we had another cutting of cables, this time between Finland and Estonia. Several cables being damaged, and that ship was called Eagle S, this one here. And the Finnish authorities decided to board it. Here you have a picture of the Finnish Coast Guard stopping the Eagle S tanker and then subsequently boarding it with helicopters and their border guard special forces. And that ship is, as far as I've understood it, still in custody and being investigated in destroying these cables. And then earlier this year in January, we had a vessel called Veshen destroying cables, dragging their anchor between, as far as I understood it, between the Swedish island of Gotland and Latvia here. And that ship was then ordered to stop and then boarded just outside of Karlskrona, but has since then been let loose. But the investigation is still ongoing in that sense. And there was the Swedish police special forces that went through. Here's a picture of them boarding a Swedish Air Force helicopter 16 or a Black Hawk helicopter actually boarding that ship. So what is this show us? So in the Nordics, we'd also have had several instances where other infrastructure has been damaged. We had break-ins into water treatment plants, and as everyone understands, breaking into water treatment plants, there's nothing really of value to steal there. So what has happened there? Several occasions, both in Finland and in Sweden, we had instances of other electronic communications cables, electronic communications masts being damaged earlier years. So what is believed to happen is that Russia is moving up their hybrid warfare, so they're trying to stay below the threshold of military use and using other means, i.e. illegalists, as we call them in Sweden. So they use so-called what appears to be civilian, either civilian vessels, civilian persons, but they are actually operating under orders from Moscow to destroy and put pressure on our society. And this has forced Sweden, Finland, and also NATO to now have an ongoing operation in the Baltic Sea, where we shadow and we track the shadow fleet, no pun intended, and make sure that nothing that they do goes unnoticed and that we can immediately take action if this continues. But this is just an example of how the war between Russia and the West is being put more and more warm. And it's not just that it's a war between Russia and Ukraine. Russia believes itself at war with the West, and that's why these things are happening, and that's why the West and NATO needs to really step up to make sure that we have a good situational awareness of what's happening, and making sure that we, as soon as possible, stop these threats and make sure that we prosecute anyone that makes any sabotage in the north. And unfortunately, I think we will need to come back to this issue and talk more about it later. But just to give you a quick overview, 3 different occasions with underwater infrastructure being sabotaged by tankers. Both in November, December of last year, and then also earlier in January this year. But this time, the Swedish and the Finnish authorities have actually acted quite quickly, which is, I think, a big deterrence for future threats. But I will end it here. Thank you so much for listening and staying with me until the end of this video. Make sure to subscribe for more of these kinds of videos, and also check out my other videos, including where I did a walk around of the Gripen E fighter jet, the best fighter jet you probably never even heard of. You can check that out by clicking on my channel link and checking out these other videos. Thank you so much for staying until the end, and until next time, fly safe.